Well, hello once again, and welcome to another Tool Talk. This one is Tool Talk number 5, and notice the background this morning. Come to you today. This is tax day, April 15th, the year 2020, and I've got a form here, maybe many of you who are self-employed know this form. It's Schedule C out of 10 form 1040, 1041 of the IRS form 1041. So profit and loss, I'm trying to get my finger to work right here. Profit or loss, and that's the profit or loss statement. And I too am a small businessman, and I think it's kind of ironic and funny that we work all year to make a profit, and then the last couple of weeks of the year we try to figure out how much we can lose in order so we don't have to pay as much tax. So we all know profit, and hopefully we all know profit, and but we certainly know this this issue of loss, this reality of loss, which is all part of our lives. And that's what we want to focus in on this morning, is this idea of loss and as it relates to the masculine journey. Here we have it. You've seen this over the course of the last few sessions. We're still focusing in on the first half of life right here. And during that first half of life, as the young man is ascending, and if he's in a healthy environment, he's being coached on his ascent to become, which is certainly natural. But sooner or later, because of the realities of life, loss will occur. And it usually begins the very first time at a very young level. I can identify my first known loss was when I was 8 years old. And it's a story of being bullied that I have shared oftentimes. And those of you who have attended a Christ in the Rockies camp probably have heard that story of loss that I experienced. And it is true of all humanity that we will all experience loss. And then what occurs as a result, that's a natural part of life. But what is often identified with that loss is this reality of shame, or this issue of shame. We somehow attach shame to loss. As long as I'm being profitable, I am good. If I experience loss, then I am bad, and I take on this shame. If I am being bullied, then therefore there must be a reason I'm being bullied, and I then take on shame, which is exactly what I did when I was 8 years old, and it had a profound effect on my life for years to come. So with this shame, then what is often occurs is the next step, and shame coupled, or actually loss coupled with shame, then becomes a wound. And therein is how the wound occurs in the young man. And of course, we're talking about the context of the masculine journey. The loss, which is a reality, which is a given known, is often coupled with shame when it occurs. And when those two hook up, it creates a wound. Now, young men respond to wound in one of two ways. Either they crawl inside of that wound and become shame itself, or there is a denial and a pushing away of that zoom, trying to transcend above the wound and trying to overcome it by overcoming. And that's where we can explain what often occurs in a young man's life, especially from Christian homes, is the self-righteous young man who's pushing shame to the basement, this wound, and trying to overcome by actions to being the good boy. And but it's unfortunately, which the behavior is great, but unfortunately that wound at some point needs to be addressed in that young man's life. Now again, and I will often say this, that the wisdom of the elders in centuries past understood this common human reality. We in our culture do not. We are ill-equipped in working with loss, with shame, and with wounding. We tend to drive it to the basement. We tend to not address it in a productive way, and thus the social problems we are having today. That is why I have been so engaged with this whole idea of the masculine journey, and why I'm so motivated, because I feel these things need to be brought out, and it is the role of the elder in today's Christian culture that should be imparting these facts to the next generation and tutoring the next generation of how to in a healthy sense, address these realities that we all face. So there is where we have the relationship of loss, shame, and wound. Now for you guys, what I would like in the tool talk, the tool time, where you actually get to exercise, is in your small group or on your own. If you're listening or viewing this, I'd like you to take some time, and if what would even be better is with a piece of paper to start jotting some of these things down, to think about when was the first time you experienced loss. How old were you? My story, I was 8 years old. What impact did this loss have on your formative years? And to be able to start identifying those things and to be able to correlate those things and understand those things, to bring them to more fully understand your story. That is the goal. But for today, this is where we will leave Tool Talk number 5, the role of loss in our lives. And it makes perfect sense to ponder those things now later on in life, to be able to understand the kind of man that I have become. So we will see you next time, and thanks for joining in.